Hello everyone and welcome to the stream. I'm going to just to do a short introduction. I'm Fernando, YouTuber, writer and mechanical engineer, and today I'm very happy to be joined by my great friend Daniel Malhadas.
Hello. Yeah.
Now, if you want, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Daniel Malhadas. I'm a writer not my full-time job, but I do it when I can. I'm from Portugal too, like Fernando. I'm from 1995, like him too. I hope I can get you guys to know me a bit, and also a bit of the book. What is the idea behind it? What is the message I wanted to share with it? Feel free to make any questions you have, either about the things we are going to talk about, or about the book, or anything you want to know.
Yeah, and also, just because this is my first time doing an offline collaboration, and first of all, thank you very much for joining me. I'm very glad you accepted this invitation, and I think together we can make an enjoyable stream for me, for you, and for everyone in chat. Just to give some context, this is not the first time we are together. I didn't invite my dad specifically for this stream. We've been great friends for 20 years, even more.
Yeah. Something like that.
So we've known each other for a long time. It's strange I'm still getting used to seeing someone else beside me, and I want to say it's good to see so many people in chat. I want to say hello to Maru, Kratos, Stephanie, King Ameno, Aizen, Hugo, Afonso, Jeter. So many.
Best crossover.
Yeah. Oh, and don't worry if you are busy or something, but I think we can provide an enjoyable stream. I'm just going... You've seen my streams, this is just to... And hello, Andrea, welcome to the stream. I wonder how Andrea found out about this channel.
Not sure. I have no idea who that person that shares my last name is.
Exactly. Yeah, but this is just a little bit to warm up the room, let's say, and then we will jump right into the interview. And but yeah, we've known each other for quite a long time. Both writers, but I think we are very different writers. I think, at least, you've read things I've wrote and I've read things you wrote, and I feel like in some things we are similar, and in others we are the complete opposite. That's how I feel. I don't know if you agree.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, I feel like reading our books side by side, we both love long books. Right away, that's one thing that is noticeable. But there's so many factors in how we tackle characters, how we tackle the plot, how we tackle the thematics of the book, that I think we are polar opposites.
Also, I think the priorities of what you want to do when you are writing a book, like what you want to say and the messages you want to say and the things I want to say in my book, I think are very, very different.
Yeah, and that's also why I wanted to have you here, because, it's good to have the validation of someone saying, oh, you are doing it. No, but I prefer the confrontation. Not that we will be fighting today, I hope not.
Yes.
But to be with someone that tackles writing as me. We are longtime friends, so we have some similarities on our way here, on our journey.
Yeah.
But then you look at the point we are, how we're going forward and everything, and things are very different, I believe.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to start the more interview part of the interview, of course.
Sure.
So you've already did a short introduction. I don't know if you want to do any further introduction, or
maybe just thank you guys for being here, listening to me. When I wrote this book, I took almost 7 years, as Fernando knows, to write this. And during that time, I spent a really long time thinking that maybe no one would even want to read that, or would care to know that story. And I was putting so much effort and so much time into it. So at times it was very hard to go on. So it's an amazing feeling seeing that people care about it, and they are picking up the book, they are curious about it, they make questions about it. I've had people reaching out on Instagram to talk about it, so I'm very happy to be able to talk to... Now it's not just something that is just for me, just something I do alone and that no one actually knows. So that's an amazing feeling. So thank you, Fernando, for asking me to be here and to be able to talk a bit about it.
No, I'm the one who needs to thank you. People want us to fight in chat. Yeah, 7 years, and my book is also been cooking on the slow cooker for a long time, and I think we understand our pain, each other's pain, when it comes to try to do a huge project. It's even if you have people accompany you along the way, it's a very solitary work to try to write such a monumental work.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, we are opposites, but at the same time, very similar.
I think that specific struggle of wanting to finish something huge, no matter the genre or the type of book that you are writing, or even the project, even different projects, they all have that. It's very easy to start, but finishing is a whole different thing. So
yeah, it can be books, it can be video games, manga, whatever the medium, filmmaking, doing like your own project. And I know people, and sometimes that's something that saddens me, people who are so afraid of getting into it because it is hard. It is very, and there are people who stop doing it just because it's hard, but I think we can both agree that it pays off.
Yeah, definitely. Like, and maybe we'll be able to talk a bit about it later. But definitely, the feeling of knowing someone kind of looked into something that is very deeply yours, that you don't usually show to the real world. It's something that is inside your mind, and you write it to yourself, and then someone is finally looking into it, interpreting it, reading it, is a feeling that can't be described, I think.
And even having people who sometimes interpret your work in a way completely different from what you intended, it's quite
and even like when people don't say like good things about it, even when they have criticism to say, I think it's still amazing that they took the time to read, to think about it, to reach out, to say something, to give me ideas on how to grow. It's amazing. Never expected it.
Yeah, and just to make sure I do my proper work before, this is the book, Cais do Desconcerto. It's currently only available in Portuguese. So if there's not anyone listening who doesn't speak Portuguese, I'm sorry, maybe one day, who knows, there will be a translated version. And also, I wanted to say, Kratos or anyone in chat, I think that we tested the sound and everything, and I think the technical side of things are fine, but if the volume is not leveled, if there's any problem, feel free to let us know in chat. Today, sometimes I will try to read chat messages, hi Zoom, hi everyone, but of course it's a different setting, so maybe I will skip one or two messages. Don't take it personal. But yeah, I'm going to, you know how things go around here.
Yeah.
And Daniel rejected my tea offering.
Yes. I'm staying with the water.
So two very healthy alternatives. But to further introduce yourself, besides video games, besides this book, what's your previous experience in writing? Did you write a lot before writing this book? Did you have many experiences?
So definitely yes. Like I think writing is something that has been in my life basically since forever, and like even before I knew how to write, I always liked to hear stories and to imagine stories. So basically, as soon as I started knowing how to write, what I will do is go home from school and basically watch cartoons, and then go to a notebook and write what happened on the episode, and then have basically a journal of a whole series and stuff like that. I always liked to do that, to write stories and stuff like that. And then as soon as I started feeling confident to write my own stories, I've been doing it. So I can't even remember since when. But I had never actually finished a story, written something by myself till the very end. And I also tried a bit, I wrote some poetry in the past and stuff like that, but what I am really passionate about is about telling stories. That's what I really like in writing and in reading. And in poetry, you can do that. You can actually like build like a whole world with different poems and stuff, but it's much harder and it's a totally different process. So at least at this moment, like I'm much more interested in the writing prose and writing books. So
sorry, I'm just reading because because the comment of your brother. Sorry.
Yes, no problem. So basically, I've been writing since forever, and I don't just write books. I also have been trying to do video games for a really long time, and I've been writing stories for them. And currently, I'm doing a video game that I've been doing for several years too. I also write for that, so I try to write for different mediums, and my point is really to just build stories and create stories. That's really what I like about it.
And regarding video games, you don't just write them, you also program a lot of things and do a lot of the code going into it.
That's why it takes so long to actually finish anything.
Blame the chair, it's
No, it's not a bad chair.
Okay.
It's really my fault.
And what would you say is the role that writing currently plays in your life? It's like your main occupation, it's a hobby, it's an aspiration, a dream. What do you think?
Yeah, so it's not my main job. I'm a software engineer by day and a writer by night, basically. Which is good because I work much better at night. But still, most of my time is doing software engineering. I would love to eventually have like the possibility of writing maybe full time, or at least writing more than doing software engineering, because I actually love both. I have a deep passion for both of these very different things. But sometimes we get a bit more tired with even if we have a very deep passion for something, sometimes we get a bit tired with it and we need to kind of lean on a bit in something else. So it's always good to have at least two things that we enjoy and that you can kind of intertwine. Sometimes people are a bit they get surprised to know that I love software engineering so much, and also that I like writing and reading so much, because they to some people it seems like there are two very different things, but actually to me I think they are actually very similar. In fact, at least when I'm writing, I'm kind of doing some problem solving. Like I want to relay a message, I want to have something basically pass onto the paper and onto the reader, I have to kind of find out a solution for that puzzle. And in software engineering is sort of the same thing. So sometimes it's tiring to have these two passions that seem so different, but in fact have much more in common than it seems. But so it's both a goal, it's a hobby, and possibly in the future something that I do full time. Who knows?
And I loved your response, because usually I think the most relatable story, and I think myself and many people in chat relate to the story, is I'm writing or I'm an artist and I hate my daytime job. I think that's the most common story that you see, or even in content creation or YouTubers, people who do part-time. I think the number one most common the most common story is I hate my daytime job, I hate my field, so I'm doing this as an outlet, as an escape. And it's refreshing to hear you say, no, I also love what I do as a living. I love people are saying mood in chat, because I know many people don't like their daytime jobs. It's good to hear that you also have this passion for...
But I'm definitely lucky about it, that I found something else that I like, and it definitely started with like video games, with wanting to do video games, wanting to learn how to do it. And I always, and I'm sure you always heard that too, like it's something people hear a lot, that if you like video games and you want to make video games, people tell you to not go learn software engineering. Now that I learned software engineering, I say that it's wrong. Like you should learn software engineering if you like video games, and you can do them. Like it makes sense, and that's basically why I enjoy these two things so much. They allow me to be creative in different ways, but they allow me to basically tell stories, which is what I really like.
And I think I'm going to pick the question from Hugo. What do you think is the main inspiration? This is a hard question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you...
what's the main source of inspiration for my writing. It's usually like the things that I think and that I would like to basically tell to other people. So it's a bit what are my opinions, what are the things my beliefs. And then I really like to take things to the extreme. I like stories where things don't just go in the normal way. They derail like very fast into things that should never happen in the normal life. And I like to then question my beliefs, my morals in those situations. Like how would either me or someone with specific morals behave in an extreme situation, in a situation that goes beyond anything that is acceptable in the normal life. And that's a bit my inspiration. Like I like to think these situations and then start building from there. Like what if one day you go back to your home and your home is not there, and there's just like an empty field and no one knows, every person you ask about like knows nothing about your home. They say there was nothing there all the time. Like this is an extreme situation that completely derails the normal process of normal life. What would you do in that situation? That's the type of things I like to think about and like to write about.
Yeah, and as we go further into the interview, so far we are talking more about writing in general, but we will go more into detail regarding your book and what you said, your reply right now. If you were interested by his description, his book is completely the style he just described, putting people into extreme situations, how people deal with those situations. It's the psychology of the people behind them. It's completely the style of his book. And Andre's question ties into my next question. Actually, I was going to ask, what are your favorite media regarding anime, books? Like, what do you prefer to consume? And you can tie into with if you use them as reference for your writing.
Yeah, so it's a very good question. And about the type of media I consume, like I like every type of medium that basically has storytelling. Like for example, I like to read. I don't particularly enjoy like books where it's just like an opinion and there's not much of a story. Also the same with movies or documentaries. I like them, but not as much. So I like mediums that have something to tell, a story to tell and to show. So it really depends on how I'm feeling at the moment. Sometimes I prefer video games, other times I prefer to read, other times I prefer to watch like an anime or a live action series. So I really enjoy all of these. There's not a particular one I can really say, okay, this is something I prefer much more. It really depends on the moment. And I think all of them have their different strengths in terms of storytelling. There are things you can do in a book that, for example, you could never do in a movie. Like in a movie you have to show something, while in a book you can write and basically hide perspective. You can basically trick the reader much more easily. That's not a word, but with much more ease than you would do it in a movie or a video game. But you can still do it in those mediums, and but it's completely different way you do it. So it's good to kind of analyze different mediums, see how they do it. And basically, now picking up the question that Andrea was saying, I did use a lot of manga and anime as a reference to my book. In specific, and a lot of people know that I love Goodreads. Is my favorite anime, and that's definitely a very big inspiration for this specific book. And also Cais is another anime that inspired me a lot. And I think both these animes have something I really enjoy, which is taking things to the extreme, taking situations in completely extreme ways that you would not expect to happen, especially on Cais, where you basically have people in a boat, for example, to take the first episode, like something that should not have such extreme situations, and they always take it to the extreme. They always go as far as you can imagine, and I love that, and it's a very big inspiration, no doubt.
Yeah, and since we are talking about other media, I think that's something that people who consume the same media as you and then read your book, sometimes you can find some small nods towards Kaiji, some small Easter eggs. They're not, if you don't know the story, the Kaiji or something else, it goes by completely normally. But if you do know and you know that it's intentional, you know right away, okay, he's referencing Cais over here. And even ancient Greek philosophers, I remember some references.
There was a specific one I thought no one would see or notice, but I was very happy when you told me you noticed it.
Yeah, exactly.
And about Cais, I have a whole chapter that is basically a tribute to Cais. So
yeah, exactly. And the question from King Amen also, what are you doing to promote your work, and are you planning to release it outside Portugal?
Yeah, so to promote it, I basically started with Instagram. I sent it to a lot of Instagram or bookstagrammers, as they call themselves, to basically promote it. There are some that did some reviews. There's even a YouTube review, all of them in Portuguese, of course. But and I've been receiving some positive feedback, which is really good. And also did a presentation in person on a Fnac store in a city here in Portugal, and the other things now I'm doing is trying to find the best people to send more books to, because what I noticed is that most people that do book reviews on Instagram, they mostly do reviews on romance books, so my book does not fit what they are expecting, and most of the times they don't want to read it because it's not what it's too big for a book for them to read that is not the type they enjoy or that they want to base their Instagram on. So I have to kind of look for specific, more niche Instagrammers that talk about this type of books. And I'm also wanting to contact more stores to do some more in-person presentations, because I think the one that we did on Fnac went really, really well.
Yeah,
much
I
better,
was there.
Yeah, much better than I was expecting. I was very happy about it, and I really want to do something like that in other stores and possibly in other parts of the country. Like I have been too constrained to my own city. I want to kind of expand a bit, go to other parts of Portugal, maybe even to some schools, some libraries. I would love to go to different libraries in the country and give some books there, because at least, like, even if eventually the book stops being published, stops being sold, at least the book will live in the libraries around the country, and people will be able to pick it up and read it even in the far future. And like, the point of a book is really to be read.
I've said that many times as well.
So I really want to do that. Basically just the issue is just finding the time to fit this in between my main job and my other projects and stuff like that. And I think there was another... are you planning to release it outside of Portugal? Definitely yes, but I have a contract with the publisher, and they have some conditions to be able to publish it outside. For now, the only other country that is in conversation is Spain. But the conditions that have to be met for it to be translated to Spanish and to be published in Spain and also Latin America are still a bit far. So I'm working towards it, but should not be the near future. But who knows? Maybe in the mid-term we'll be able to read it in Spanish, and in the longer term in English, even better.
And you forgot one key point in this answer. You're also coming to my YouTube channel to promote your book. Yeah. That's also one of the things you are doing.
That's very true.
But one of the things that your answer reminded me, I was seeing a podcast from Brandon Sanderson and Daniel Green, and they were talking about nowadays how new authors try to find their place. And I think if you look back like 100 years ago, publishing a book had like a set of steps. Like, okay, I send it to the editor, now it's accepted, now it's that. It's kind of like when you are studying, you do the primary school, then secondary school, you're more on reels. I feel like nowadays no one knows how to publish and promote a book. There's so many options and no one knows the right answer.
That's very true, and it's more and more important to know, because you have an immense amount of books now being published. Like you have a lot of self-published books, for example. Like every day there are thousands of new books everywhere, and if you write, for example, in the English language, which is not my case, but it's even worse, because you have to compete with a much larger world of books. So definitely yes, and I think, and this is, of course, I'm very new to the publishing world and all that, but I've been talking with a lot of recently published authors and stuff like that, that I've known since during this year, and basically I see that a lot of people have very different expectations of what really is to publish in the current world. A lot of people expect the publishers to do a lot of stuff that they actually can't do. So there is the expectation that the author will have to do a lot of stuff, much more than they would maybe several years ago. Like several years ago, you would not need to reach out on Instagram. You would not need to. There wouldn't exist social media or stuff like that. So you need to kind of learn these things. You need to do an extra step on a lot of stuff that you may not be well versed at, which is my case. Like I didn't use my Instagram a lot, and I had to kind of get into it, understand it a bit more, and see how to better reach out to people. So yeah, that's definitely a challenge to take into account.
Yeah, and I think tying into what you said, I've read people say, and I completely agree, there's never been so many great authors on the rise. The quality and level of authors is amazing. But at the same time, this is something Brandon Sanderson said, and I agree completely. It's never been harder to debut as a new author. Mm-hmm. They say it, and I believe. And we were talking about Instagram and everything. It's also one of the things nowadays we have so much power. We have access to so many tools during the digital era. But then it's like, okay, I have all of this. What should I focus on? Yeah, and that's the hard part.
That's so true. And I wish I knew what I know now. In January when I published the book, because I would have been so much more efficient in going to the right channels first, doing things in the best way. And I did commit a lot of mistakes, and maybe in 1 year I'll look back and wish I knew at this moment things I will learn in the coming year. But that's just how life is.
It's a sign of progress.
Yeah.
If you were now saying to me, oh, when I published my book in January, that was my peak, and now I know less than back then. Then I would be worried.
That's very true.
Yeah, but another question still, trying to get to know you and present you to the chat and everything. What would you say are like your favorite hobbies? Of course, writing is one of them, but...
So I really like things where I can be creative, where I can produce stuff. So I of course I enjoy reading, I enjoy playing video games, but I enjoy much more when I'm writing or actually developing something. So that's usually what I really love to do as a hobby. I like to, for example, be watching like a TV show while thinking of a video game that I'm making, or while maybe thinking of how to write something that I want to write in the future. So even when I'm not actually writing, I'm often thinking about it, and that's a very big hobby of mine. So stuff where I can produce things. And of course, like this has a very big corollary where we can't, and it's maybe a mistake I do sometimes, like we can't fall into the trap of wanting to always do something productive and always wanting to produce, or like the stress that puts into you is very big, and it's actually dangerous for your mental health. And over the years I experienced that, where at moments like I always wanted to be productive, I always felt like I was losing time and stuff like that, but I feel like we really need to have like some middle ground. Like we may actually enjoy a lot being productive and do productive stuff, but sometimes also good to kind of chill out, relax a bit, either read a bit or go out for an inconsequential walk around the city or something like that.
It's one thing to, okay, I'm going to go for a walk to think about this chapter, but don't do that. It's just go for a walk, full stop.
Definitely be able to turn off and just enjoy the actual moment you are living in. Is so hard to do nowadays, but it is essential, I think. Otherwise, like if you keep forcing stuff, if you keep forcing yourself to be productive, you'll not be doing a good job in the end, and I feel bad. And
thank you for sharing this side. I think it's a very relatable story for for people who are in chat, for probably people who are more tied to the creative sector, to writing, artists and everything. I think it's a very creative story, and I think it's important for all of us to speak about this side of mental health and stuff, and to emphasize the need of, okay, it's good to be productive, but there comes a point where productivity becomes a problem, and you need to stop before.
And I can even share something that I experienced when I was writing, where basically when I started writing, or being much more focused on when I was much more advanced in the story of this book and really going into it and really knew I wanted to finish it. Every time I was doing anything else, like reading, for example, or stuff like that, I would kind of feel bad and thinking that I was kind of losing time. But this is a very wrong mental state to be in. Like it's not good, and in the end, you want to read because you in the end, by reading, you are also gaining knowledge and improving your own writing. And not just that, you need to chill out, you need to relax, you need to do other stuff. So definitely it was very hard to kind of tell to myself, okay, no, you need to stop this type of mentality. You need to really force yourself to enjoy stuff, to do other things, because and like I said before, I spent 7 years writing the book. I rewrote it 3 times, and during that whole time, finishing it seemed so impossible. It seemed like it was so far and so distant that every time I was reading something else, I was feeling bad, because I wanted to finish my own project too. I want to touch it. I wanted to feel the pages, to know that I managed to do it. So yeah, it's definitely something.
And you talked about rewriting and everything, and I can tell. I don't even need to ask you directly. I can tell to everyone here, this huge block you are watching right here, it's probably 5% of the work what got into the final product. So many rewrites, so many cutting down, so much research you end up not using. So even if this is massive, this is very tiny compared to the amount of work you probably had to put into this. For sure. But now for a bit of a break in mood, I have a fun sort of like a game I prepared, where I'm going to quick fire you some 16 questions.
Okay.
All with yes or no questions or different choices, and to have chat getting to know you. So are you prepared for the... I should have prepared an epic music to play for the quick fire round and then an epic announcer. But yeah. First, and this is the most important question of the entire stream. Tea or coffee?
I'll have to go with the tea, and I bet if I chose anything else, the stream would, the chat would basically kill me alive here. So.
Second, still water or sparkling water?
Sparkling water.
Sparkling. Okay, sweet foods or spicy foods?
Spicy.
All spicy. Potatoes, rice, pasta or bread?
Rice. I'll have to go with the rice.
Favorite season of the year?
Summer.
Summer, okay. Do you prefer warm weather or cold weather?
Warm.
It makes sense. Do you prefer take vacations on the seaside or on the mountains?
The seaside.
Seaside, yeah. You are Portuguese.
Yeah.
Cats or dogs?
Cats. And I have two, so
yeah.
I have to answer cats.
Yeah. I know the answer before asking the question. Prefer to watch movies at home or at the cinema?
At home.
Okay. Do you prefer to walk for an hour or run for 10 minutes?
Walk for an hour, definitely.
Same. Do you spend more time on the computer or on the phone, or what do you prefer?
Computer.
Do you prefer to watch sports or practice sports?
Watch.
Mostly. Okay.
I do nothing physically, but I should definitely.
Yeah, we all should. Do you prefer singing or dancing?
Well, I'm very bad at both, but I think it's slightly easier to be slightly good at dancing, so I'll go with the dancing.
Okay. Do you wake up early or go to bed late?
Go to bed late.
Do you prefer taking a walk during the daytime or nighttime?
Daytime.
Daytime, okay. And do you prefer cursive writing or block letters?
Cursive write, you can't understand anything most of the times, but it's just so beautiful. You have
I forgot. I should have prepared. Not everyone knows what cursive writing and block writing is. Just going to give an example to chat. Yeah, my beautiful calligraphy. Top is block writing, bottom is cursive writing, basically.
Yeah.
it's block writing because it was for the block printing and things like that. But yeah, that was a quick fire round. I'm then probably going to store your answers and get some data or and everything.
You should do this to every guest and then
yeah, that's the goal. That's completely the goal. You are the first one. You are the trend starter. Let's see if people follow
the guinea pig.
The guinea pig, exactly. And now I'm going to talk more about we are talking about things in general. Now I'm going to focus more on the author side of things, the how writing influenced you.
Yeah.
How do you feel like becoming a writer has influenced your enjoyment of reading? How you read, how you appreciate?
So I touched a bit on it earlier, and it definitely influenced the enjoyment I had of reading at the time, at the start. But of course, this was when I was really involved in writing. I wanted to enjoy reading books. I wanted to really enjoy reading other stories, but I couldn't stop feeling that I wanted to write instead. But I was tired and I didn't want to do it. But I kept feeling that. And other thing is I kept thinking constantly. And this is not just on reading, but also on watching movies and series. I kept thinking constantly. Okay, if I was doing it, I would do it differently in this way.
Yes. That happened.
And it took me a long time to be able to turn off that part of my brain and just enjoy a movie without trying to think on how I would write a story. But sometimes I like to do it, but after watching the whole thing. And sometimes I even spoiled myself, because previously when I was reading or watching movies, I would not think on the things at all. I would just enjoy it as I go, and I would not try to guess what is going to happen, and then I would be surprised. But now I feel like I started being more and more, without even realizing, I'm already trying to guess what's happening, because I'm trying to guess how I will do it, what would I do with this, what plot twist would I make, and sometimes I spoil a bit the story, and I feel bad, because I know if I didn't write, I wouldn't do this. So definitely it did spoil a bit, but less and less as time goes.
Related to your answer, one of my favorite things is I love it when I'm watching something and I also have my writer brain turned on, and I love it when I watch something and I'm like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like the way this is going, but then the author does it in a certain way and I'm like, oh, this is a lot better than what I was I love to be positively surprised by other authors when I think, why did you do this? You are ruining your own story. And then the twist comes and you're like, oh, I love to be... At the same time, I have the writer brain turned off, but one of my most enjoyable experiences now is when other authors, I feel like they are surpassing me. I love that feeling.
Definitely, yes. I think it's the total opposite, and that's the good part of having your writer brain turned on, is when you think, okay, this is going to happen, I think I know the plot twist, and then the plot is completely different and even better.
Yeah.
In that situation, it's even better than if you weren't thinking at all, because it double surprises you. So definitely yes, I think it's an amazing feeling when that happens. Unfortunately, it's not all the time, but yes.
Well, let me just see. Long question by you. Are you considering taking your written books to the movie series universe? Would you like to see your work projected to the screen?
Definitely yes. I would love it. And I would even like to see also a comic book of the book, because I would love to see it in picture. I would love to see the representation of a lot of things in the book, but even better as a series or as a movie. I would definitely love it. Have imagined it in my mind a lot of times.
I think most authors would answer the same.
I think there are some stories that sometimes are very, very hard to put into other mediums, but I think this specific story, you couldn't put it in the way it is in the book, but you could adapt it perfectly into a movie, a series, and it would work, I think.
And now, talking more about specifics, what are your favorite genres to read and to write about?
Yeah, so basically, as I talked a bit before, I really love storytelling, and I love all different types of storytelling. So I have tried and I've read multiple types of from romance to science fiction to anything, and it really depends on my mood. But there are some specific tropes that are very niche and very specific that I love. but that I don't see very often, which is, and it's not the case of my book, but for example that specific trope where characters wake up like in a warehouse or in some place they don't know how they got there, and they have to do something to escape, or maybe like it's a very specific niche. Like you also have that famous book by Agatha Christie called And Then There Were No, which is kind of a similar idea to this, where people go to a place and they have to find out why they are there, what's happening. I really love those kind of mysteries.
Yeah, and then there were none. To explain to the more younger audience, it's basically Among Us police criminal style.
It's a very good
analogy. And I need to recommend you after this book, The Frugal Wizard.
Is it like that?
Yeah, it starts with a character waking up in a field and he has no idea how he got there. So if you like that trope, I
love that trope, and like sometimes it can go very badly.
I think it's called the White Room. That trope. Yeah, I think it is.
Nice. I didn't know that. I particularly love the corollary to this trope. I'm sure there is a better word to say this, but or the specific type of stories where the person responsible for the situation, for the whole thing, is one of the person that is also trapped, or that is also there and pretending to be just a normal person also trapped. You know.
Okay.
I love that type of story too.
Yeah, the Among Us.
Yeah, basically. And I think the medium that has like at least the most or the best stories that I've seen on this is like visual novels. I think Japanese really like this type of genre. And the best I've seen are definitely in visual novels.
Okay. I definitely need to read more visual novels for sure. And we've touched upon this a little bit before, but what would you say are the main influences for your work? We talked about anime and manga, but
yeah, so to be specific, like Cais and Goodreads, very big influence. Then also because it's a dystopian society, and it talks about that sort of a dystopian world. I also inspired myself in some classics related to that, like 1984, for example. So there is a big influence from a lot of stuff. There are also like a lot of I read parts of Dune while finishing up parts of my book, and that definitely had a big impact too. Like Dune is currently like one of my favorite books. It's an amazing book. And for anyone that reads my book, you'll see that I love long dialogues with monologue, and also kind of talking about what the character is thinking and feeling about the words they are saying. And that's something that I feel like on Dune is done in the best way I've ever seen. So definitely, even though I didn't read Dune before starting writing the book, it has, I would say, has kind of a retroactive impact, because I then rewrote with that book in mind.
Okay.
So definitely, I would say that it has a big impact too.
Oh, and I'm curious about this question by Clantot. What's your opinion on horror stories?
It really depends. I love horror stories when they are psychological. I don't really like when there is like a ghost or something like that involved. Like it can be good, but only if it goes past like the shock or the monster.
Yeah,
just
the jump scare kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't like the type of horror where it's just the horror is the monster. Like I want it to be a bit more psychological. So I saw that. So Karadantos is asking if I like the Saw movie franchise. I really like it. Like I think the first Saw movie to me is like a perfect horror movie in a way, or the type of horror movie I like. But I'm not a very big horror fan. But I like the type of horror that is caused by humans, to humans, and that is more real in that way.
Okay. And now we are talking about horror. Now we will talk about the complete opposite. For you, when you are sitting down and preparing to write and everything, what's the most enjoyable part of writing for you?
Oh, definitely like the problem solving. I think there are many moments in writing where it's a bit despair-inducing, because you want to pass a message, you want to say something, and you maybe don't feel like the words are saying exactly what you want. Maybe you feel like the message will be misinterpreted, or maybe you have something you want the characters to do and it just doesn't work. So when you finally are able to accomplish something you wanted to do, like you finish a specific part, pass a specific message, I think that feeling has no equal. Like it's an amazing
I
feeling.
agree. I completely agree. And now, on the other side of things, what's the part of writing that you least enjoy? And there's plenty, at least for me, there's plenty of them as well.
In a way, it's the same. It's also the problem solving, because until you solve it, sometimes it can be very, very frustrating. When you finally do it, it's an amazing feeling, but it's so amazing because you had to kind of suffer a bit to get there. So definitely, there are particular moments in my book where I basically skipped around, like I didn't know what to do there, so I kind of started writing ahead, and then went back. Then rewrote a bit with the knowledge of what I wrote after, definitely there are things that because what I love to do when I'm writing is really to just I love the idea of beating like impossible odds and having impossible challenges, have the characters try to be faced with something that is truly impossible, and to do that what I like to do is really write something that I think is totally impossible and the characters wouldn't be able to surpass, and then I go and rest a bit, and a few days after I go back, and then I sit back and I think, okay, now how can I beat this? How can the characters actually surpass this without it being cheap or just making no sense? So I try to do that and fight a bit with myself on that, because I kind of got myself into that situation. So it's hard and sometimes frustrating, but it really pays off in the end, I would say.
And it's funny because I know there's people in chat who've read your book, and I've read your book, and the things you are saying having your book in mind, they all make complete sense. Usually when thinking of storytelling, I always thought that starting will be quite hard. As a writer, how do you start? What would you say is the hardest part of a book to write?
That's a very good question. I think at least to me, the easiest part is actually the start and introduction, because when I start, like I know what I want to say, like I know how I want to start, but making a compelling ending, or making an ending that kind of ties everything together, makes sense, surprises the reader, and basically ends everything in a satisfying way, I think it's really, really hard to do. And we can see there are a lot of media that have a very great premise, and then the ending does not live up to the start. I think the ending to me is the hardest thing, and definitely one of the things I struggle the most with, how to make the ending surprising, make sense, and tie everything together. And the start, like I usually don't like to think too much about it, because I take a long time to write, and maybe this is an approach many people don't like, but I just go with the flow, and I know I will rewrite it. So maybe if it does not make sense in the end, I'll just drop it, make something new. And so I know the message I want to say, I know what I want to do, so I just start writing about it, and it just flows naturally. And it really blocks when I want to finalize something, either finalize a chapter, accomplish something, really tie everything together. That's really the hardest part. But that's really because I don't plan ahead too much. Maybe if I did, I would say something different.
Yeah, because this ties in perfectly to the next question, which is, would you describe yourself as a discovery writer or an outliner?
So I'm mostly a discovery writer for sure, but also kind of a midterm, because when I rewrite, I take my first draft kind of as an outline. So in the end, when I write the final version of the book, in fact, it is like an outlined book due to that, but I start as a discovery writer and discovery write almost everything, and that's why endings and stuff is so scary to me.
Yeah, because it's a common trend in discovery writers really dislike the endings, and you said it, no one is a pure discovery writer or a pure outliner. We are somewhere on the scale, but you definitely tend more towards the the discovery, right? And I forgot to ask again. I hope I moved the microphone a little bit. I hope sound has been going clearly throughout the stream. I hope so. I think you kind of answered this already, but is the first book you published the first book you've written, or?
So I tried to write books before this specific one, and there was a particular one I was really going very deep into it. I had written a lot, but I was very young when I started it, so it was not really, I did not identify with it anymore, but I had invested so much into it. It was very hard for me to really pick it up and say, okay, I'm going to drop it. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to start from scratch. Like I didn't have at the time the mental fortitude to be able to do that. And at the time I was robbed. My computer was stolen.
Yeah, I remember that.
and basically, like at the moment it was hard, of course, but I'll be honest and say it was like the best thing that happened in my life in a way, because I had the other versions of the book stored elsewhere, but they were kind of old and lacked a lot of pages and a lot of stuff. And that gave me the push I needed to really say, okay, I'm going to drop everything and start anew. I was very mad about it at the start,
of course.
And very frustrated. But as soon I remember exactly, I'll never forget the moment where I started writing this exact book, and it just flew so.
It felt liberating.
It flew so naturally, and just like the first 5 pages were so much better than anything that was on the other book. Like I had grown so much since I started the other one. I really needed a fresh start, so so it was really good that happened in a way.
Sometimes things, life is like that. It's
I did have other books before, but nothing I published or planned to publish.
That's something. Sometimes we write for ourselves, others we are writing for publish. And how does your writing routine look like? Do you sit down, okay, writing mode engaged? Do you put a playlist? Do you have some special routine? Or it's just like you are doing something, I kind of feel like writing and start right away? How?
So I would love to have an actual routine. I would love to have a schedule I can stick to, and like every time I finish work, then I rest for 1 hour, then I go write. I would love to do that, but it's not really possible all the time, because sometimes my main job is very tiring and I can't really do stuff. Then I also have the other project, the video game that I'm making for a long time, and what I usually do is I kind of do what I feel will make me feel better the most at this moment. So if for example, if it's the night in a weekday and I'm really tired, then I will allow myself to basically just watch a series, to chill out a bit, play video games, and if I want to work on, I don't force myself to either write or to either work on the video game. I kind of do in bursts. So maybe, for example, in this current moment, I've been feeling very good in developing the video game, so I work on that. But I've also been doing a new book. So when I feel like, okay, now I feel like I'm inspired to write, like I have a lot of ideas I want to put into words, then I spend maybe like 2 months where I just work on the book. And weekends is mostly when I have the time to do most of these things, where I pick up my tablet a lot and go like either to the beach or to a lot of places outside, and then use it to write a bit.
So you write on the tablet?
Yeah.
That's also part of the question of the routine, because some only write on the laptop, others on the There was a time, speaking about my experience, where I had like a writer's block, and my way to overcome it was I wrote with pencil and paper for like 1 month. I wrote the first draft with pen, and then I passed it to the computer. It was my way it's not a productive way, it was my way to deal with the writer's block.
I've done it in situations where I really had an amazing idea and I was feeling so inspired that I wanted to write it, but it was horrible to then write it back on the computer, so I hate to do that. But I prefer much more to write on a tablet, not on the touch screen, screen because that's horrible. So I kind of bought like those cheap keyboards to connect with the tablets, and I write with that like 90% of the time, I would say.
I need to try that out, honestly.
Because it's very practical. Maybe you don't know if you are going to write or if you want to, and you're just going out. And it's very usual, like if you go with family or stuff to the beach, for example, there are a lot of down moments where no one is doing anything, and sometimes I just feel like, okay, now I pick up the tablet from the backpack, and I just write a bit, like half an hour, and it just flows naturally, and that way you guarantee that you write when you really feel like, and you are not forcing, like, okay, I need to write at this moment, or I need to be in this specific place to write. And I think that helped me a lot since I started doing it, because some years ago I was really always writing on the computer and did not have the same flexibility in writing, you know.
Yeah, because regarding this question, I'm the complete opposite. I'm the kind of person who is like, okay, this Saturday I'll have 3 hours of free time. I'll write from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. in front of the screen. I'll have this specific BGM. I'm the complete opposite. My writing routine is super structured. So, and I think I need to try to be more. And the question from Philippe Lopes: did you have the chance to say thanks to the fish?
I did not.
This is something that when I'm asking questions, I'm asking for chat, but this is something that I also want to ask for myself. I'm honestly curious. Did you feel a huge shift in writing and everything since before you were a published author to after being published? Did you felt?
Well, the biggest shift was really that even now that it has been almost a year, it does not seem real. Like every time I look at the book and I see it exists, like it does not seem like it's a real thing. Like I can't believe it's out, you know. And before that, and I said that before, and even to you in private in the past, that I was afraid that no one would care, no one would even pick it up, no one would read it to the end. And now I can actually see people's feedback. I can see people reaching out, even people I don't know.
Yeah, that must be amazing.
And that's amazing. Like people giving me feedback on what they enjoyed the most, what they liked about it, their interpretation of stuff. So definitely I would say the biggest difference is being able to prove to yourself that you can do it, that you can finish something. Because in the past, one thing that I struggled with a lot to myself is that I started so many projects and I worked so many hours into them, like hundreds of hours in many moments, but none of them had actually finished. Like there was no actual output of anything I did. Like I had an incomplete game, I had an incomplete book, I had so many things, but none of them actually were done. And if a book is not done, if a game is not done, then in the end it has value because you had fun while doing it, but it does not have the full potential of its value, so it still does not feel actually true, you know.
And when you talk about the value and the positive side of having it published, and sometimes having the book published is a positive, having it unpublished can even be a negative. It can feel like a waste, something that's tiring. I speak from experience. Having too many unfinished projects can be very overwhelming, so to have one to offset that balance of, okay, I can't finish anything, no, I have one that's finished, that's out there.
And this specific book, the less rewriting or the less rewrite happened in the 1 full year, where I tried to do one chapter per year, per month, one chapter per month, and basically, by the end, I had set a goal to myself, a schedule. I want to get to this moment in time, and I want to have it finished by then. And because if I keep reading the book, I'll want to change stuff. I want to change it. I want to rewrite it completely. But I had done it so many times. I had this in my mind for so long. I had to basically advance. I had to let it go, and so I said, okay, I'll do it until this moment in time, until this month and this moment. When I was approaching that time, I took a big vacation and just worked on it, and it was so hard to finally do the final work. It was so close, but it was the most complicated part, where it really weighted the most on my back. I remember writing the final word, just putting the full stop, and thinking, I can't believe that I finished it, and I'm happy with the whole message, that I managed to say what I wanted to say. And that was not the end of the writing, because then the publisher asked me to change stuff, they gave me feedback. So in fact, it still took one other year to actually publish it.
Yeah.
But that was the end of my individual or alone work.
Yeah, and what would you say are the main things you've learned from writing your book in general, from this journey?
Oh, okay. Maybe that you can't really force it. Like, you shouldn't try to force, and you shouldn't worry too much about what other people will think, if they will enjoy or not. At least if it's your first book, you should try to do something you really want to do. Like, what I tried to do is I wanted to make the book I would love to read. Like, I would love to see this exact book. If I read it, I would have loved it. It's exactly what I wanted to see in a book. And maybe that entails doing things that other people may not enjoy. But I think you have to be true to your vision. You can't kind of destroy it to try to appease or appeal to people that maybe don't like the same thing as you, because you'll end up doing something that even they also don't enjoy, because you don't fully understand the reasons they enjoy the things they do. So in the end, don't force it, because every time I forced, I then rewrote completely, and it was just wasted time. And don't let go of the creative vision just to appeal to more people.
Yeah, and Brandon Sanderson has also discussed that sometimes we do market research and you focus so much on addressing the market that we lose the enjoyment, and even though our book is more targeted for the market, the product is worse and people enjoy it less.
And in the end, like, if you enjoy something, there will be other people that enjoy it too. And you just need to find your niche, your target audience, and you have to present it to them. So yeah, that's a bit my opinion. That's what I gathered from writing this book.
And the question from Krantos: do you think your next stories will keep being big, or do you want to try out something smaller?
That's a very good question, because I love huge stories. I love stories that never end. Like, I would love for this book to be like twice as long, or like, it would be amazing.
Yeah, we have, as I said, we are very different, but at the same time we have a lot of the same problems.
I love that, like, for example, when you are watching a never-ending show like One Piece, for example, like, that feeling that you are following that story from the start, and so much thing has happened, like, it has been for so long, and you feel with the characters in a way you would never feel in a 1 hour and a half movie or something like that. Like, it's not possible. Or you would never feel for the characters in the same way in a 200-page book as you would feel in a 1,000-page book, like, for example, Way of Kings from Brandon Sanderson. Like, I love huge stories. But I want to, now for my next book, I want to try to do something smaller, something shorter, because I feel like I need to do that to kind of basically build better my ideas, to basically have different, because I want to write something very different. I don't want to write in the same type of style. I want to write something different, and I don't want to take 7 years to write my next book. I have a shorter idea, something much smaller in scale, but the problem with me is like scope. Like, I can't keep to a scope. When I think of the scope of the book initially, and it's something with a certain length, and then as I go, it starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I get too excited about like increasing the scope and
yeah, I completely relate to the thing of, hey guys, I'm writing this 6-chapter long story. It will be the best 9 chapters you've ever read. wait until next week when I release these 12 chapters. It just keeps getting
And I'm just remembering, I totally forgot about this, that as soon as I finished this, when I was waiting for publisher answers, I started trying to write a short story and I had a very good idea for a short story. Like, it was really short, and I started writing, and when I noticed I had like 30 pages, and now it was a full story. Like, I ditched the ending, and it really jumped into an actual like big story, and that I put on the drawer for the future. So I can't write something really short. I want to try something like around 200 pages, 300 pages maximum, but we'll see.
And as Hugo said, if you did it twice as long, it would be 14 years.
Hopefully not. Hopefully in the future I can do like maybe like several volumes of a series and not take 7 years to do like
Yeah. And
each volume.
we've talked about the writing part of things, but regarding publishing the book, what's the main lesson you've learned from?
Oh, okay. Definitely knowing the expectations, like knowing what's expected of the author. Because many people I see have a lot of frustration because they really expected something very different. So you have to really have good communication with the publisher to really know if you want to continue with them, if that's like the right publisher for you or not. And for that you have to understand if they will be doing what you want, like what you were expecting, or if they have a different perspective than you. Like many people do not want to like have social meetings, don't want to like present a book. They want to have a more passive role, and maybe there are specific publishers that will work better for them on that, and maybe even self-publishing may be the best approach for you. For example, if you are writing something that publishers will not like want to sell, or will not want to do without changing your kind of creative vision. So I would say definitely study the publishers, study what they prefer, how they work, and then don't just accept anything.
Yeah. And I think we are about halfway through. Maybe I would suggest we do a short break, like 3 or 4 minutes, if it's fine by you.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a short break to get a drink on, also for chat to stretch their legs a little bit, and we'll be back in 4 minutes, and the second part of the interview will be more focused on the story of O Cais do Desconcerto.
Okay.
And so we'll be seeing you guys in 4 minutes. Be right back for a short break. Shelf timing. Hello, we are back. We just had a short break. It's strange because we switched to Portuguese, now back to English.
A lot of context switching.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we discussed also before the stream is... And when you sent me the message of will the stream be in Portuguese or English, I was like, oh, I thought I had this... Because it's something kind of important.
Yeah.
And it's something, I mean, for example, you took the decision to write your book in Portuguese, mine is also in Portuguese. I think nowadays it's something really important for any content creator, any writer or something. Will I use Portuguese or English?
Yeah.
It's,
That's a very good point. And I can say already that, for example, like I really love the Portuguese language. So I would never write like a first draft of the book not in Portuguese, because the part of my enjoyment, like I love telling stories, like I said many times before, but part of my enjoyment is actually to write in Portuguese and to read in Portuguese. Like I love the Portuguese language in specific, so I have that thing that kind of, in a way, it holds me back because it's not then as easy to get to so many people, but also, I write what I like.
Yeah, that's very important. And also, I want to also, people are saying welcome back, and chat has been great so far.
Yeah.
As I said, sometimes we are discussing long topics and everything. We can't be super interactive reading any... I mean, we read all the comments, we can't address all of them, but chat today, it's being very active, seeing lots of familiar and new faces around. It's being very... It's been great. We are both doing our best, but of course as books are not complete without the reader, a stream is not completed without the viewer, so...
That's very true.
Thank you for being here. But now, the focus will be... Okay, it feels strange, it feels like I'm trying to sell something. I feel like one of those TV hosts, like, oh, what is the price of this book? Try to guess it. But yeah, we have here O Cais do Desconcerto by Daniel Malhadas, and this book takes place in a futuristic dystopian society, a place I would not like to live in, a very dark place, and the city where the characters live is like a huge city, a moving city, it's something, and I would also describe the city as one of the main characters of the book. The city plays a key role in the story, the relation the characters have with this city, with this place of a very tough regime, authoritarian-like regime, and because of the context the characters are living in, they are forced into extreme situations, have you said plenty of times. They are driven into the brink of madness. There are characters here who are constantly mad, just on different levels of being mad throughout the book, and as you said, it's a book of extremes. If a character is just determined, they are extremely determined. If a character is like, oh, I want to have pleasure, they go all... There's no brakes. It's like you have a car and you remove the brake pedal on your story. It's always going full throttle. And the story is really focused on the characters, of exploring these characters, the society they live in. I see what the similarity between both of you are suffering. Yeah, it's a story where the characters suffer quite a lot. There's also extreme suffering. But the book explores how these characters deal with the reality they live in, how they deal with these extreme situations, how they are broken, but not completely broken, and or even keep going on even if they are broken. They are completely shattered, they are completely broken, but they don't stop, they keep struggling until they reach their goals. And I think the story basically is these characters in extreme situations, the city, the regime, and how all these elements play together and bounce with each other.
Yeah, that's a very good description. And I like you said, it's about a totalitarian regime. And it's very character focused, so the focus of the book is definitely the characters, definitely what they feel and what they think, and I can elaborate a bit more like on the themes a bit, like for example, you have a specific character that auto-proclaims himself to be a prophet, a blind and a mad prophet, that basically wants to prove to the world and to this totalitarian society that anyone can achieve anything in life. But the thing is that this person has achieved absolutely nothing, and as a child has even been deemed as clinically stupid. So basically no one gives him any value. He doesn't even have a name. He was abandoned by his own family. No one sees any value in this person, and yet they claim that anyone can achieve anything. So in order to prove that more to himself than to anyone else, he wants to basically try and do the most impossible thing there is, which is to overthrow this absurd regime, this immense city that overwhelms them. If there is basically nothing, manages to do the impossible, then the thing is, what does that mean for each person living in the city? Like, what does that mean for the other people? If they feel like they are superior to this person, and if he achieves something they thought they would never do, then could they have done it too? So that's basically the question that is asked along the book, and this character, sort of like an obsession, pursues this idea that he can do anything no matter what, and he tries to do always the most impossible things. And when there are so he throws himself on this like immense and journey, and every time there is an easy way of doing something, he always tries to make his situation worse and go on the more difficult path, in order, because the idea is, if there is something that is already impossible, but if he makes it even more impossible, even more difficult and challenging, if anyway he manages to succeed, then there will be no way to say that he couldn't have done it. Like, it was no luck, it was no nothing. Like, it will be proof enough that anyone could have done it. If he manages to defeat the regime, then anyone else could have done the same. And the characters that follow the story, follow this other character, most of them do not agree. They even like despise this idea and think it's naive and stupid, and they just follow sort of with an obsession of wanting to know how far he will go, how far will this absurd prophet go saying these stupid things, until finally he falls and admits that no, not anyone can do anything. And this is basically the journey we see in the book, and how everything is taken to the extreme, like the most impossible situations. The character goes into them not knowing what to do about them, but knowing that in some way he'll be able to surpass it. So it's kind of fake it till you make it, in book form.
And so, thank you for completing my description. Mine was more generic. You were very focused on this main character of your book, and I think we've painted a good picture of what the story contains, what it is about. And when you were writing this book, what was your main goal?
So my main goal was really to focus on the impossible, on beating impossible odds and creating really impossible challenges. So, like for example, the totalitarian regime was something that came after. So it was not the main goal for me to talk about the totalitarian regime, but it was the vehicle to drive the story I wanted to tell. So the main goal was to kind of show how far someone will be willing to go to kind of prove their point, to prove that anyone can do anything. Like, if there was someone really so convinced on this thing that seems so naive, how far would they go? What would they do? And that's a bit the theory and the premise of the story, and that we see, and a bit also the dangers of thinking in this way, like the dangers of not caring and not having limits, and not putting limits to yourself. What does that mean to the people around you? What does that mean to yourself? Because it's also a very destructive and auto-destructive mindset. If you never care about the consequences, if you never care about how you'll do something and you just do it, there will be consequences to those things.
Yeah.
So and even in the book there are more. This character will find other characters that think in similar ways. They also face impossible odds, and they still face them, but in very different ways, in different perspectives. Some of them much worse and with much darker consequences. That kind of show the danger of going into something impossible without really caring how we will actually solve it, and without caring what is the consequence in this specific story. For example, what is the consequence to the city and to the people that live there if you just obliterate it? Like what will happen to the people that live there their whole lives, to the people that think the city is not that bad, that think the city is actually a good place to live. And that's something that the book tries to answer throughout the chapters.
Olha, switch to Portuguese. Important question. Where can we get Daniel's book? This is a very important.
Yeah, so it's available on Fnac.
Do you want me to share any link in specific?
Oh yeah. Maybe it's better, and maybe you can put it on the description too after.
Yeah. So what link do you?
You can go to Fnac, for example, Fnac's website.
Yes. Here it is.
Yeah, and also on Bertrand.
I'll put I think the Fnac link is probably enough. Yeah.
But it's also available in Bertrand or Wook for those that prefer it. And you can also reach out to me directly on Instagram, and I can sell signed copies. So I have a few copies for this purpose. So don't hesitate to reach out to me, and we can also talk about it and do that.
Can I also share your Instagram? Is it fine by you? I'm also going to place your Instagram since it's your main social network for the book, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's the place to reach out to me to talk about the book stuff.
Yeah. And I will also add these links to the description later, for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you very much for the really fundamental question, Zoom.
That's very true. It's kind of the main point.
Both of our lack of experience sometimes comes through in things like this.
Yes.
But going back to the book, I think I know what you are going to answer, but what was the first inspiration for this book? Did it come from a character, a concept, a story? What was the first element of the book?
I would say the first thing that I thought about when doing the book was a character. Like the character that takes everything to the extreme, the character that never gives up even if things are just completely absurd and it really makes no sense to go on. Like that was the thing that sparked in my mind first, and everything else came from that. Like what would be the story to drive this character to the most impossible challenges, the most impossible odds, and then I would say the culmination of the story, like what will happen, what will be the consequences of this, what will be the final message. That's something I struggled like a lot through the whole writing process until I finished my first draft, and that because I took so long to write it, like 7 years, and during that time, like I was growing up, I was changing as a person, I was changing as a writer, also changing as a reader, and so the thing is, the characters themselves also like changed with me, and maybe something they say at the start and do, by the end they have grown and they have basically realized different things about themselves, about the world, and about how they should act and how they should act in the future.
Yeah, I just think I can pin this so it doesn't, this message, the Instagram one I think is the most,
okay,
this way it's always there on top of the chat. But great answer. It started from the character, and this ties in perfectly to the next thing I wanted to ask you, was that if your book remained 100% truthful to like your original vision, if you plan like I want to make this and then this came out, or if it constantly shifted along the time, or
it did not constantly shift, but it did shift quite a bit. Like the beginning was was not changed too much, but both the middle and mainly the final part changed like a lot of times. The final chapter and the final reveals, the final things, and the final message too of the book changed quite a bit before I did my last rewrites. So definitely, as I said, like the book grew with me, and that's a bit of the advantage of writing a book for so long. Like in the end, the message is much more mature, and you make sure that the message is really what you wanted to say, and not something that you don't really that kind of drift away from your hand and kind of drift away from your original thought. So definitely, it changed, but for the better.
Yeah, because if it's a message that both present Malhadas and Malhadas from 7 years ago both agree on the message, it's probably stronger. Let's say, keep it like, say it like that.
Yeah, I would say like me from 7 years ago would look at this message and kind of be surprised, perhaps. Like that was not how I thought at the time the book was going to finish, and I think it's important to like give yourself the time to let your book grow and let your book change, because some things that you think in your mind or that you write in paper when planning may seem to make a lot of sense, but in the end they are not organic with how the characters evolved, and they are not organic with how the story went. So definitely giving room to change, giving room for the message to evolve is definitely an important thing.
But now I'm going to ask you once again, thank you for the excellent answer. And I completely agree. Now I'm going to ask you the most tough question, kind of like a dagger to the heart. Yes. This one. I've talked about this some comments during the stream, but one of the things that anyone notices on picking up your book is the length. Was having such a long book something you planned, or just a consequence, an unintended consequence?
Yeah, definitely something I planned.
Okay.
I wanted to have a huge journey. Like from almost page 1, I talk about how there is going to be a journey, a never-ending journey. That's a concept that is very talked about throughout the whole book, about a journey that never ends, and how the characters, they themselves, they feel like it will never end. Like they want it to end, but in a way, if it ends, what does that mean? What is there left for them? And is that why they are always like worsening their own situation? Is that why they are always making the most hard decisions? Like they claim it is so that the challenge is bigger, and the final result is a bigger victory. But is it really that, or do they want to fail so that the journey never ends?
Yeah.
And that's a very common idea throughout the book. And so from the start I knew I wanted to do a really big journey where, because I like the idea of the reader suffering with the characters. Like sometimes the characters are frustrated and feeling like something is impossible, and feeling the weight of the challenge. And if it's something that is beaten in like 10 pages or 20 pages, you do not feel the weight. And I wanted the readers to feel it. So that was definitely something I did on purpose.
Yeah, pacing is very important, and that's a case where you kind of slow down the pace, so the prolonged suffering of the characters is also prolonged for the reader. Yeah, as Kratos said, the book being long is a reflection of the struggles of the character, lasting seemingly forever.
And another thing I do that people reach out to me on Instagram to talk about is about the chapter length.
Oh, because that's a question I have planned, but you can go ahead. Okay. No, go ahead.
Because the book is 716 pages long, but it only has 11 chapters. So the idea, I wanted to do several things with this. The first is that I wanted each chapter to work as almost an individual story, because each chapter has a start, a main challenge that the characters must face, and then sort of an ending on where they basically beat this challenge. And then the second chapter kind of tries to have a bigger challenge on top of the older one, and each chapter kind of can be seen as its own story, its own episode of a series, for example, where it's always continuing, but it's building on top of it to build its own thing. So for that I had to make long chapters where you kind of feel the challenge has impact, where you feel the length of the challenge. And what I do, instead of just having the chapter change the pace, I have sort of some breaks within the chapter where we change scene or we change character perspective and stuff like that. So if I know some people read books and they want to stop reading every night on the end of the chapter.
It's very common.
Yeah, that's very hard to do with my book. But I have several breaks in each chapter that can be used for that. But yeah, each chapter can be seen as its own challenge to surpass.
Oh, this is a great question. Why the title O Cais do Desconcerto?
Yeah, it was a very hard decision to come up with a title. My initial title ideas were really bad, and I discussed it a lot with a lot of people, and it was actually my wife who came up with the name, and I think it really fits the book, because as Fernando said, and I didn't touch too much on it, but the really main character of the book is the city, and how the city changed these characters, how the characters only do this because they are completely obsessed with this city. The city is basically a really bad place, like it's a horrible place to live in. It destroys the people that live there, as we can see with how insane some of the characters are, but they still obsessively love it, because in the end they only exist because of the city. It's their mother in a way. And so basically that's why I came up with this title, or I didn't come up, but my wife came, and it seems such a fit to the book, because in fact it translates sort of like the wharf of unsettlement, and the wharf is not an actual wharf, it's the city, and it's of unsettlement because it gives you like an eerie feeling of something you feel is not really right, but also there is something to it that you can't really understand. There's something to it, the characters can't really know why they love it so much, why they are so obsessive with it, but there's something undescribable within it, inherent to the city, that makes them feel compelled to just be there and to never abandon it.
Yeah, I would add, you have obsession, I would also add fascination.
Yeah,
it's kind of this duality.
Yeah.
They have an obsession, a fascination, and also a hatred.
Yeah.
It's also a love. It's the relation between the people and the city is full of contradicting ideas that coexist.
They want to destroy the city, but out of a place of love, out of an idea of love, which seems so insane, but that's how it is. And it's also fun to see, because it's just one single city, and we see throughout the book like characters that live outside of it, that were basically abandoned by the city itself, and they still cannot let go. They have not been on the city for so long, but their dream is to go back. They hate it, but they need to go back. They just want, no matter what happens, they just want to put their foot there, and then they don't care what happens. They just want to go inside to say they were back, and then they don't care. So they still live their life with an obsession for this insane place, this destructive city that does not care for them at all.
Yeah, and another factor from your book is that Portuguese culture plays a huge role throughout your book, without a doubt. Why did you decide to, because your story could be in reality, it could be a fictional place, it could be inspired by different cultures. Why did you specifically decide, I'm going with Portugal and very Portugality themes?
Yes. So, and because the book is in Portuguese, and I really love the Portuguese language, I wanted it to be intrinsically connected to Portugal and to Portugal culture. And to be honest, like if we go and see how many dystopian stories, how many stories about really facing impossible odds we find in Portuguese about Portugal. Like you have some, but not as many as you have in so many languages, in talking about so many different places. Like I think Portugal deserves like a story like this about facing impossible odds, about doing that. And because I love the Portuguese language so much, I wanted it to have meaning other than it's just written in Portuguese. Like it's written in Portuguese and it is Portuguese. It has a Portuguese soul. You can translate it and it will still make sense, but I think to any other language that you translate it, it will lose something. Because being Portuguese is part of the identity of the book in a way.
Yeah, because my approach on that regard is completely the opposite. Because my book is in Portuguese, but even the names, when I pick a name, it's like I want this name to also sound good in English. Yeah. My book is very planned already on the translation. I'm like, okay, it's in Portuguese, but that's just a vessel for communication. Yeah. For you, no, the Portuguese is part of the essence. Yeah. It's not just a means to an end, it's part of the essence.
That's very true. I tried with the names in specific, I tried to make most of them sound like something, it's Portuguese, but it could sound okay in other language, but some of them are just Portuguese. Some of them really you can't go around it.
Yeah, and Uwe is also saying it's interesting here, this dynamic of I'm here and despite hating this place, it's my home. It's quite typical of Portuguese people and culture, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point of really like disliking something, but continue to push for it.
I dislike this, but if you insult this, I'm going a lot to defend it.
Yes.
Only I can insult this place. I really dislike.
But just to put this in words, like of course it's a book that is happens in Portugal, but does not represent my actual view on what Portugal is. Like it's a horrible place and a horrible city that really like would never exist of how extremely horrible it is. Like it takes everything to the extreme. Like it would never exist something so insane like this. But I don't. It's not my view on what Portugal actually is.
It's good that you made this clear comment. Let me just go through my list of questions. Oh, and this is a nice one. What was your favorite part of the book? Like a description or a character? What was your favorite element to write into the book?
Yeah, so definitely it's chapter 6 was the hardest chapter to write and the one I liked the most. And it's about kind of talking about the society outside of the city, because until then we basically just we know there is something outside the city, but we don't really touch upon it. And to kind of give some context, the book is divided in 2 parts, and one is the first part is spent inside the city, then the second part is spent outside of the city, trying to go in again. Chapter 6 is the first one spent outside of the city, and I think it's the best part of the book to me, because it really shows it's the first time where we see people with the same obsessive ideals as the prophet character that I talked about, that really feels like the impossible is possible, that really feels he can do something despite no one giving him value, and we see how that can be a really destructive and negative view if you have no restraint. And we see a society that is even worse than what is inside the city, and it's worse while trying to make the city better, and it ends up being something much worse, much more insane than anything the city would do. So I really enjoy that. I think it's a turning point in the book where it kind of introduces new characters and gives some new life to the book.
Yeah, and I think that character you introduce in the book, in that chapter, like the one you said it's equally obsessive. I think him playing off the main character, it was really a good point on the story.
And that specific character is my favorite character. So.
Oh yeah, I would assume it was the main character.
No, I really enjoyed the main character, but I think that character that shows up there, like it's the one I enjoyed the most to write.
Oh, that's I did not have this in the questions, but it's good to know. And This is also an interesting one. Do you feel like writing for you, I think I know the answer, but do you think it was more of an individual effort or a group effort? Because some writers have the possibility, for example, to have writer meetings and they share the story along the way with a whole group, and it's writing is always an individual effort because it's me and my book, but I feel like there's more of a community, while others are more the crazy mad scientist working alone on his insane project. What would you think?
Yeah, so definitely it was the crazy alone project for me, but that's not good. Like I don't advise doing it in that way. But because it was my first book, I think now I can break away from this thing. But it felt so personal to me and so something so deeply mine. I got really anxious every time I thought of someone reading it. I thought many times of sharing with people, knowing their opinion about it, knowing what they had to say about it, but every time I tried to do it, I got really anxious and I didn't want to do it, and in the end the book was very an alone effort until almost the very end. When it was published, it was like a surge of anxiety of knowing like people I don't even know will be picking it up, will be kind of analyzing it, reviewing it, maybe like making interpretations on the things I say, that on things that are so profound of me, that I don't say during my daily life, that I don't share all the time. So definitely there was a lot of anxiety on that, preventing me from sharing with more people. But I want to now in my future books to like be more open about it. And I think I gained more confidence with this first book to be able to do it. And I think the fact that it was such an alone project was one of the causes that made it take so long to write. So it was an alone project, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah. I've been going through, I haven't published yet, unfortunately, I really need to, but I've been going through the same character journey as you have. Okay, I've been doing all of this alone and I don't think this is so I completely agree, and I think any author can look back and wish they did things differently, and it's a constant, but at least you are learning for...
That's very true.
Ooh, that's a hard one. If there was one thing you could change in the book, what would it be?
So many things.
For me, if someone asks, even I haven't published, it will probably be the entire thing. It would be my answer.
If I could do it now, I would change the first 3 chapters at least, because I don't know. I every time I read it, like I feel like I want to make it different, to make the different ideas maybe be shown sooner, but the thing is, I'm very happy with the general message of the book and the general idea. I'm very, very happy with the ending. I wouldn't change anything on the ending. I think I was very happy with how it turned out. I just would love for the start to have the same strength as the middle or the ending, and I feel like maybe the start, I don't feel it's weak, but it's definitely the worst part of the book is the beginning. I don't think it's particularly like slow, because there is action right on the first chapter, so the story does advance, but I feel like the middle and the ending is so much stronger than the start that I would have loved to be able to rewrite it again. But if I kept doing that, I would be doing it forever. There has to be a moment where you have to really stop and be able to look at it and see if you are happy with the general idea of the book, and if you are, then it's good, and you need to advance to a new project. And to be honest, like, I'm very happy with how the whole book in general turned out, so I'm happy about it.
I've told you this many times already, just finishing such a long book and publishing and everything, those are enough reasons for someone to be proud. So congratulations once again. I've said it many times, but so one of the first times I say it here on my channel. And this is a fun one. One of the comments I've had on my book, we've talked about our similarities, now let's go to the contrast. people sometimes complain like, oh, you are building an awesome city and very lots of world building, but then I switch into describing food and all the action is gone. I love talking about food. The amount of food on my book is huge. And it's something I noticed on your book is, in contrasting, there's basically no food on your book.
Yeah.
Food isn't present. And I would like to ask you if like you just didn't thought about it, like you forgot, okay, food is something that exists, or if it was like a conscious decision of, okay, this is horrible and food is a symbol of comfort, so we'll avoid it. And at the same time, food is often a mechanism used to slow down the pace, and you didn't want to have that break to eat and everything.
Yeah. So it was not very conscious, but I think there are some things to take into account on my book, and the pacing thing is a very good point, because I wanted the pace to like speed up on each chapter, with the exception of a specific one by the end where there's kind of a calm before the storm, but I wanted the pace to get higher and higher until reaching like the climax of the story. So indeed I didn't feel there was ever like a good moment to really like chill on a long eating part, but still there are two moments in the book where there's food.
Yes.
But it's not even really food, and it's always like described as a really horrible thing. So in the end, and it does play with the perspective of food being something that you do for leisure, and it kind of shows that you have money and you have comfort when you are able to eat good food, and the book plays with that by showing that and then playing on those expectations. So indeed, all the food that is shown in the book has always a dark side, and there is no good food shown. A bit not on purpose, but definitely for I didn't want to like stop the pace, and I also didn't feel like there was no moment for the characters to really feel good.
Yeah.
in the journey. Maybe in the start there would have been, but not from maybe starting from chapter 5 onwards. There would have been no moments for that.
Yeah, for me, there's a line in writing. I could make my characters suffer a lot. They could be like suffering battle injuries, going through very horrible things. Giving bad food is the line I will never cross. Yeah. My characters, it doesn't matter where they are, they will eat good.
I mean, there are moments where I describe like how the characters eat and find their food, and it's not a pleasant process.
Yeah, and I'm going to combine the next two questions into one. And first off is, and I think this we have discussed already, that you have a very unique chapter structure, and that ties into the themes of the book. And you, in writing, your book breaks a lot of rules, a lot of conventions. Like each chapter must be this length. You should not have these kinds of descriptions during this kind of. I feel like your book breaks plenty of rules deliberately, and I often say this on streams. Knowing the rules is important because you should break them, but consciously. And how mindful of you were of those rules, and how much did you put your thought into, okay, I'm going to break the rules, and this is part of the book. Was it very planned, the breaking of the rules?
Yeah. So I love that idea of when you are doing a literary work, you shouldn't care at all about rules. Like I agree with that a lot. Like if breaking a rule makes the work better, then do it, and do it right away. Don't wait or be afraid to do it. If you are writing something for work or to teach something, then you should follow like strict rules. You should be careful about punctuation. You should worry about that. But if not, then just go all out. And I like to write how the reader should read it. Maybe there are some moments where there are too many commas or something like that, because I want the reader to read it calmly. I want the reader to read in a particular way, and sometimes there are less commas because I want the reader to read faster. I don't really care if it's the best syntax, if I'm doing the most correct comma, because the comma is sort of a tool to tell you how the story should pace, and it should be used as such. I always take inspiration on there's a particular comic book writer, Frank Miller, who wrote Sin City. And Sin City does this very well. It's a comic book, so you can play with the pacing much better, but he really, you don't even realize, but you are reading the comic book, and you are reading at a particular pace, and there are some pages you read so fast and some you read so slow, and you don't realize why, and then you go back, and if you really analyze it, you see it's the way the things are written, it's the way the drawings are shown. He really makes you read at the pace he wants you to read, and when I saw that, it really inspired me, and every time I write, I try to do that. Like I want to. I don't care about the rules. I want to make the reader read at the pace that I want the story to happen. And other than that, sometimes when I feel like something is getting boring or like the story is not working, then maybe that's a moment to like break all the rules and make something the reader is not expecting. Either like doing something in the story they were not expecting at all, or making characters act in a way they did not expect, or just work with expectations in the writing itself. Maybe write words in a different way, maybe put adjectives in a different place. Like I do that a lot in the book, where I put adjectives before the name, which in Portuguese is not something we do often. And I've had people contact me on Instagram, people I don't know, like asking why I did that. And I tried to explain a bit, and I think it's sort of breaking the rules to make the reading feel like as if what the feel as the characters would feel when listening to those words or when feeling those things.
I often say as a joke to my audience that one of my dreams is for my book to get placed like into the national obligatory reading and then have students like, oh, I hate Fernando, why did... But I feel like your book with this breaking of rules, if your book ever gets like an exam about Daniel Malhadas, students will hate you. Why does this guy break all the rules? You are even worse than me. Your students ever have to study Daniel Malhadas? First, teachers of the future, address the students toward these streams so they can give me views and understand better Daniel Malhadas.
We'll do a second and third episode to go deeper into it for more watch time.
Yeah, an episode basically analyzing a sentence each episode.
I like that.
But talking more about the panorama of literature in general, one of the most common comparisons I see towards your book, and I've even used it when some people ask me what kind of book it is, I compare it to 1984, and when it comes to dystopian future world building, 1984 plays a huge role. People don't call it dystopian, they don't call it, they say it's a book like 1984, that's how you describe it. And in fantasy, we have this name called Tolkien, I don't know if you've heard of him, that wrote Lord of the Rings, and Tolkien really shaped the fantasy genre. People say there's like a time before Tolkien and after Tolkien. There's a time where all fantasy was described like Tolkien fantasy and non-Tolkien fantasy, basically. And now I feel like fantasy is finally moving away from the shadow of Tolkien. He was very positive for the industry, no doubt about it, but also sometimes the effect he caused, he also had some negatives due to how large of a scale his work were, and now I feel like fantasy genre is finally steering away from it. There's so many varieties, so many different words. Yeah. I don't think nowadays people can say fantasy is the genre of Tolkien only. There's millions of colors of fantasy, to say the least. Would you think that sometimes 1984 plays the same role in futuristic dystopian world building? Like, it was great, but at the same time since everyone compares it, it kind of smothers the flames of other authors.
I think there's a very good point there. Like, because 1984 is an amazing book, it's a timeless classic, and it's by nature is an unfair comparison every time you compare with like a new book, like because for a new book to be on the same level as 1984, we'll have to have like 1,000 of books on that topic for you to come up with one that even compares in terms of quality and message and all that. So definitely comparing with a new book will always be a bit unfair due to that, but as the consequence of 1984 being such a good timeless classic. But still, I think that is not the worst thing, because I think that's natural and it's okay. But the bad thing is that 1984 has a connotation and a very specific message that people already know and are already aware. So when you have a book that touches on similar topics, so like a dystopian society and all that, and it has similarities at the start, you may be tricked into thinking that the message will be either similar or that the idea of the book is the same. And if you go into some books expecting that, you may be disappointed because the message in the end may be very different, or even surprised because the message is not the same. And I think the same happens in my book. So I love 1984, like it's an amazing book, but of course I will not give spoilers, but I really dislike or don't like the main message of the book. Like George Orwell like shared a very well thought out message. He wrote it very well and it's very clear, but it's a very hopelessness message. It's a very message filled with despair. It's the complete opposite of my book, where I want to show that even in the most impossible situations, even against the most insane odds, there's always hope, even if you have no idea on what to do about it. Like there's always a way to achieve anything. So it's actually the complete opposite idea. But if you pick up my book and you read the start, maybe the first few chapters, it may trick you into thinking the similarities are much more than they actually are. So I think the shadow of 1984 is more on that side, where it can make you think a book will have a particular message, will have a particular ending or a particular idea, and the idea may actually be very different.
And you can see on chat, Stephanie says she agrees with your opinions on the commas. Someone saying that's a great message. You can see the support coming. And also, don't forget about the Arações in Cais do Desconcerto. Oh, that's kind of fun. Do you often think about these things?
Not at all.
The things we studied in Portuguese language.
I don't think most writers do.
Yeah,
I'm going to bet and say that. And if they do, like they must be crazy. Like to write like 700 pages, for example, something, and try and be conscious about the, I don't know how to say it in English.
The
orações of each sentence. Like that would be completely insane. You kind of have to trust your gut sometimes. Yeah, and if you break a rule, like you break it because you want to write in a particular way, and you have the right to do it. Like you should not. And I know there are some people that really like the books to really be very strict in the language and all that, but I did talk about it a lot before, that I think books really should be very open about this. Like there are really no rules on what you can do or cannot do in terms of syntax in a literary work.
Yeah, I completely agree. And now, a great answer regarding the 1984. And I must be one of the few people. For now, if I want to sell your book, I use 1984. That's something, we won't go into that topic, that labels like fantasy, crime or things like that, they are not tools for the authors, they are tools for marketing and for the audience and to sell. And saying your book is like 1984, it's a sales speech to say the least. But I must be one of the few people. I did not read your book because of 1984. I read 1984 because of your book. After finishing your book, I've read 1984 this year, and it was after reading your book. And then I was like, oh, now I understand why people say there are similarities. And your message of the hopelessness and everything, I completely agree. Now I've read both, and the contrast is there.
That's a very big compliment. If someone tells me that they read 1984 because of my book, that makes me feel very happy. I'm
going to do a stream next year talking about every book I read this year, and Yours was the first one I think I read this year, first or second. You released it earlier this year, right?
In January.
Yeah, so probably one of the first ones, but then soon after comes, yeah, here it is, 1984.
It's a bit shorter.
Yeah, a bit shorter. I mean, the formatting also does a trick, but
Yeah.
seeing them side by side.
Yeah.
Let me see what chat was saying. I dislike 1984, and what you said is one of the points I really don't like. So having a positive message is a really good way to move forwards from the Orwellian dystopias. I was missing that term, the Orwellian dystopian.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Totally agree. Books are supposed to be to open your horizons, not restrict you. But how do you feel if someone compares your work to the work of another author?
Well, to me it's perfectly okay, and if it's compared to like what I consider to be a timeless classic, then I'm happy about it. But as long as the person comparing opens the horizons enough to read the actual book and see the differences in the message and in the ideas, and not just to be too stuck to how it may mirror something else.
And I think often it's not just about the comparison itself, it's of course the tone that people speak. It's that there's a huge context. It's one thing of saying like, oh, it says a similar tone but it's kind of different. It's another for someone to say, oh, 1984 is so good and your book is horrible, why did you write? I mean, there's different levels of comparisons.
Yeah. I mean, I would say even if 1984 did not exist, I would have written this book, and I don't think one would the story of one replaces the idea of the story of the other. They are very different stories with very different ideas, with common ideas in the setting.
And thank you for AFFR for complimenting our interview. We are almost done, just like 2 or 3 more questions, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
We've been going for 2 hours. Time flies when you are streaming, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's your first time here on this side.
I didn't even realize it was already.
Yeah, time flies. But yeah, we're going just if you have time.
Yeah, no problem.
Just a few more questions, and then we are going out to dinner to celebrate the stream. But
yes,
just what was the biggest surprise you had after publishing your book, like regarding comments or everything? What was the thing that you were like, oh, I was completely not expecting this to happen?
The amount of people that read it. No doubt. I really thought people that know me will maybe buy it, they will read it, my family will read it. But as soon as I started seeing because I can see the amount of sales done, and I saw, okay, this amount has to be more than my friends and the people I know, and then I started seeing people commenting on Instagram, reaching out to me, people commenting on I'm forgetting the name of that app for books. Goodreads, commenting there and talking about it. I was it was the biggest surprise. I of course I wanted it, and I never expected it would happen in that way. So very happy about it.
I was just laughing to myself. We were saying, oh, because I counted the number of sales and the number of friends. Now I would open my closet. I would have 30 copies of your book, and turns out I was the one who purchased all copies.
You would be a good friend.
Yeah, no, I did not do that. Do you feel like it's important that the writer identifies himself more with the main character or the side characters?
I think it's important for the writer to be able to detach from the characters, because if the writer feels he is too much in the character, then maybe it will turn too much of a self-insert, and having bad things happen to the character may be harder to do. And
sometimes it turns into those power fantasy kind of things where the main character is the greatest at everything.
Yeah. So I think it's impossible for the writer to also not identify himself with the characters.
With all of them.
Yeah,
we identify with every single character.
And of course, some characters do some horrible things, but they are still human, and they always have something that is a part of you, and that's why you invented the character. Otherwise, you couldn't have thought about it. So I think it's important for the writer to identify to a certain extent, so the writer understands the characters and why they act in that way, but there also has to be a degree of separation. To make sure that I was doing that, I made sure that on the book, like every character questions the other characters. They never agree 100% on everything. That really helps in detaching from the character, being able to do counterpoints to the own things you wrote, to make sure that you are not those people, and that you are basically writing about things that are you, but at the same time are not.
Yeah. And I completely agree regarding my own characters and everything. And that's sometimes the hardest part to write, because sometimes we need characters that are completely different from us, and those are the hardest ones to write. This Brandon Sanderson says the hardest character for him to write is a character that's smarter than him. And it's a challenge, and writing characters different.
Yes.
The more different the character is from us, the more challenging it can be. And it's not different. True. I think it's like the complete opposite. Like there's things of opposite attracts, but if you think like on a fundamental level, like creating a character with a completely different set of priorities, the more you start shifting the core elements, it starts getting really, really hard.
And sometimes it's not just being different than you, but also being something you never experienced.
Yeah,
because maybe you've met people that are very different than you, and you can make an assertion on how they think, and you can try to work from there. But if you want to make a character that you never saw, like a type of person you've never met, you never read about, and you have no point of reference from it, I think it can be really, really hard.
And that's why so many people use tropes and establishment, because it makes it easier. And another question that's also one I'm curious. Nowadays, can you pick up your book and read it, or does it feel like impossible?
It is impossible to read from start to finish, because I will want to change so many things, and I will start feeling like I want to change this word, like things that make no sense and that do not actually like improve the book at all. It's just like details, like okay, this word I want to use a different one, and then now I want to put this chapter, this sentence before this one. So really micromanagement. I keep thinking of that while reading, and but still I've read parts of the book, because when I had it in my hand, like I had to do it, like I had to pick it up, and I read my favorite parts. I feel like from time to time I will always like pick it up, read particular parts, and be happy about it. But I'm not sure if I will ever read it from start to finish, and if I do, it will have to be in a very long time.
Completely understandable. And now the stream has been quite long already. I think I'm going to move to some closing questions.
Okay.
And I hope you enjoyed being here.
I hope it was interesting too for
the viewers, of course. That's why we are here, not just for ourselves. Now that you have written and fully released your own work of literature, do you look at other books or other works of art in a different way?
Now I can enjoy them more, I think, because it's like I said before, while writing I always felt like I want to finish my own, I want to and kept thinking that, and now like I feel like I can actually relax. I am enjoying books much more than I was enjoying before. I have been picking up stuff I wanted to read for a long time and didn't, because it was a huge commitment. For example, this series you have here in the back, it starts with The Way of Kings and
the Stormlight Archive series.
I wanted to read that for a long time, but it's such a huge investment. I didn't want to do it at the time, and I already finished the first one. I loved it. I want to continue to read this, so definitely I think it has really made me much happier in enjoying and reading books.
That also, just a question that I just came up with. One of the things that I've noticed after finishing my other book, people like to criticize everything, of course. Saying this is bad writing, like has a comment like this is a bad writer. Oh, this regarding an anime, a series, a manga, whatever it is. Saying this is a bad writer for me is so hard nowadays, because I understand like the level people consider bad writing. For example, if you are watching an anime, probably it has already a huge level of success and everything. The level many critics say it is bad is already such an amazing level. For me, calling something bad writing is really hard now.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Like I don't I have become much less critical. That's true. And I accept much more, and I tolerate much more, and I invest. Like when I'm reading something and I'm not enjoying it, I do invest much more, and I try much more to like it, because I feel like if it was my book, I would love for someone to like give it the benefit of the doubt, to actually like finish it, to insist a bit, and it's much harder for me now to drop something.
Yeah.
Like I do feel that. It's a very good point.
Yeah. And now for the closing questions. First of all, is there any specific advice that, I mean, we've touched on many points today already, but is there any additional specific advice you would like to give to aspiring authors?
Maybe some summary of some things I said above. So like don't hinder your vision. Don't try to do something that is not you, or that is not the book you want to make. Don't pressure yourself to write. Don't force yourself to write. If you do not have a schedule and you can't have a schedule, don't force it. Then it's okay. Work at your own pace and work as it goes. And also do not rush to like the first publisher. Do not rush to the first possibility. Always investigate. Always like learn from other people that already published. Learn from other things. Even look at some contests. There are a lot of contests even here in Portugal where you can submit books and have them be reviewed and in the end be published by a particular publisher. So look into that. There are a lot of very good contests here in Portugal. So definitely like investigate, and then be prepared to, after publishing, be the start of a whole new journey. Like it's not the end. It's an ending of a part, and I would say even the hardest part. But be prepared for it to not be just like smooth sailing from there on.
Definitely. And thank you very much for the advice. And I haven't published yet, so it's good for me to also have that wisdom. And besides your own book, of course, you recommend your book to our viewers. Would that be any other book you would like to recommend? Yeah.
So I talked about it before. Dune. I think Dune is an amazing science fiction book. It's probably my favorite science fiction book of all time that I've read. It has amazing dialogues, and one thing I think it does so good is the way every dialogue is sort of like a battle, where characters, if you just remove the thoughts of the characters and you just had the dialogues, sometimes it will just seem like a normal dialogue where you don't see anything special, but they have the thoughts of the character in between what they are saying, and you can see sort of like a psychological battle where they are not saying everything, they are saying things in a specific way to see what the other will say, and then the other is answering in another way, and they know they have a lot of insight. They understand that if they slip and say the specific word, it will betray their intentions. So every dialogue is a complete battle full of action, almost as if it was an actual fight. You know, and I thought it's an old book in a way. Yeah. It's not new, and even so, the dialogues are so refreshing. It's something I do not see often. Like I was very surprised by it, and I watched the movie, for example, that came out recently. And while it's a good movie, it lacks these details that you can only do in a book. Like you can't put a movie, have the dialogues, and then just listening to the character thoughts. Yeah. Like you can do that, but that's, to me, that's the heart of the book, and that's the really the best point of the book, and why you can never have a really very good translation to series or to movie.
Yeah, and that's you did a good sales pitch, because I haven't watched the movie and I haven't read anything from Dune yet. So
I would say if you watch the movie and you think I didn't enjoy it too much, that doesn't mean you will not enjoy the book.
Okay. I will probably start with the books.
You should.
We are both book persons. And another question, this we kind of replied and should probably taken care of this beforehand. Where can viewers find you online, and where where can your book be purchased?
Yeah, so definitely the main point to reach me and to like know the news about the book, like if I'm going to do a presentation and where, and any advancements on it, is through my Instagram that you shared, and we can.
It's pinned on the comments.
Yeah, and we can add to the description later.
Yeah,
and,
I will do it. Don't worry.
to buy the book, don't hesitate to reach me out on Instagram to buy signed copies. And sometimes
I have one signed copy.
Yes. Sometimes I even have like some discounted options in the Instagram, and I sometimes will advertise it. And other than that, you can find it on Wook website, on Fnac and Bertrand. And there were some physical books in Fnac in Braga recently, but I think they are all sold out now. So
that's a good thing.
Yeah. So, but you can go to any Fnac store and basically order it, and it will arrive.
Okay. And if you want to reveal, of course, you can keep it secret. But what can you expect? What can we expect from you from the future? Like more books, more what?
Yeah. So definitely more books, and also I want to finish the video game I talked about. And for the specific book I'm working on, I want to do something smaller and shorter, and more towards a mystery, with a mystery vibe. So it's more of a sort of a I'm missing the word in English, like a policial. You can't say it in this way, right?
Yeah, criminals. I don't. Yeah. I'm lacking the specific word.
A crime story.
Yeah.
But where basically the crime is known from the start. You basically know all the things, and you just don't know as a reader from page one if you can actually trust the perspective of the character who is driving the story. Because the character is not in a good mental state, and they themselves don't know if they can trust their own judgment on what is happening. Detective story, that's exactly it. And there's two main characters, so basically the detective and the main character who is possibly the criminal or not. Like, we don't really know, and that's basically it. Finding out what really happened, who really is a criminal, and why, and what really happened.
That's reminded me of. I don't know a lot about this story, but the video game Disco Elysium.
Oh, okay.
Because it also has a very unreliable detective.
Yeah.
That
I only played the beginning of that game, but I loved it. I have to play it till the end.
I watched, like, I didn't play it. I watched a bit of a stream, and I was like, oh, this looks so well written.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
And finally, the final question is there any further details you would like to add?
I think we kind of talked very extensively about the book, about my next projects, about everything. So don't have anything in particular, but let us know if you have more questions or anything.
Feel free. And even at the vault later, you can. Yeah. If you are not watching live, you can leave it in the comments down below, and both me or Daniel can answer the question. Feel free to reach to us through Discord. Even if you ask me, you don't use Twitter, but if you ask me on Twitter, I will just send the question to Daniel, and he will reply. Feel free to ask any questions after the stream is over. And once again, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me and for listening to me ramble on for 2 hours.
Yeah, this is actually the most refreshed I feel at the end of a stream, because I had to talk very little today. It was refreshing to have.
I love to talk and to just start talking and never shut up. So hopefully I didn't ramble on for too long on specific topics and anything like that.
Yeah, if it's needed, you can also create your own YouTube channel, and it's good for people who like to ramble. Trust me. But I'm going to end as always with a quote of the stream. Not showing the schedule and everything because it's not needed, but the quote of the stream tonight is, of course, a quote from your book. And should I read it or you read it? What do you prefer?
I can read it.
Go ahead.
Se aquele triste homem sobrevivera aos extremos ferimentos que vira, no deserto sem comida, água ou cuidados médicos, e ali se apresentava com um físico incólume, então por que não haveriam eles de ultrapassar também a própria morte?
It was in Portuguese because but I think this quote, and most people in chat know Portuguese, this transmits very well the ideas we were talking about.
about finding the way to face the impossible odds and proving to others that if even you can do something, then everyone else can do it.
Yeah, and with that said, that concludes the stream. Once again, thank you very much for being here. It was a pleasure. Thank you for accepting the invitation. Thank you for being... It was a great event for you, but also for me to have my first collaboration. It's something I really wanted to do, and we've talked about doing things solitary or in community, and this is something I want to push towards, doing more collaborations, having more guests. You were an outstanding guest. I had a really good time. I hope people in chat, they seem to be interested in your story, and I think we both can agree on YouTube, just getting one new subscriber is huge, and as a writer, just getting one book sale is huge. So even if it's just one people who will buy your book after the stream, that's already a huge victory.
Definitely very happy about it.
Yeah. If we have one sale,
even if there is no sale, I'm very happy to know that more people know about the book and what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Now more people know, hey, this author exists. There's another Portuguese author that's publishing things, and that's why also I wanted to share my platform and to have you here. But yeah, great interview, very informative, interactive. Nice talking with you once again, Daniel. I really enjoyed today's stream. I received very positive comments from chat and everything, but we need to have dinner as well. It was a long one, but I had a blast. Thank you very much once again. Thank you as
guys.
Always to everyone, of course. Thank you to chat. I will not name every single person who was here. Luckily, I'm glad I can't name them all because that's a good sign. But yeah, thank you guys, and I'll be seeing you this Tuesday with this guy. You are the one who presented me to this guy.
That's very true.
That's also a hidden piece of lore. I played this guy thanks to the DL. So yeah, see you guys. It was a blast, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye. Say bye.
Bye.